Good morning and happy Friday to you. My name is Jared.
My name is Isaac.
And we have our special guest today,
Brandon.
This is the next edition of the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast. We were just talking about trills. This Ordonez. It's a little bit of an exercise.
Can you roll your eyes? Yes.
And I cannot.
In Spanish was his first language. The Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast. Thank you for joining us. It's so nice to have you here today.
We're enjoying our Starbucks.
Today we didn't feel like making our own coffee, so it was one of those late mornings. Getting adjusted to the time change.
Not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Well, yeah, you fall back, you get to sleep the extra hour.
Exactly.
But the morning sunrise at 6:20 or 6:15 when I was driving out, I was enjoying watching the sun be behind the mountains before this. So I think, another 3 or 4 weeks we should start seeing that pattern again.
Yeah.
So
I really don't like the getting dark late or early.
Early? Oh,
yeah.
5 o'clock?
Yeah. It's always, especially when we're out showing homes.
Yeah.
We're trying to record at 5 in the afternoon when it's already dark.
Yeah.
Got to be carrying lights now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's only a few more months.
Yeah.
I think we're back to normal in March or something like
I was
that.
going to say March.
Yeah.
April.
Yeah. The dark season. Winter is coming.
But I guess we shouldn't complain. There's places like Alaska that get
No sunlight.
no
right?
sunlight, or it's like 11 and there's sunlight.
Have you been
I have not.
north?
Have you been?
Yes.
Where
It's
has
the
he not been?
weirdest-
What kind of
it's the
question is that,
weirdest
man?
Middle of June, and it's sunlight until like 11 o'clock at night. The sun literally kind of goes down like this, goes behind the horizon, and then it just kind of dips back up, and at about 3 or 4 in the morning it comes back. It really doesn't get dark
In Alaska?
in Alaska during summer.
Oh.
But flip that around in the middle of winter, and it's like they get a few hours of sunlight a day, and it's mostly dark for the entire experience. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Gotta check that out.
It's like one of those things that, okay, that's nice.
That's how you feel about it. Like, I love the rain, but I don't know, man. I hear like Oregon and Washington get rain so much.
You'd be
It gets
surprised.
depressing.
Well, that's kind of the stigma.
Yeah.
But friends I know that live there, that's kind of like their secret kind of cover of it's not always like that. Sometimes it is, rainy and gloomy, but they have some really spectacular experiences.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the greenery, I can't imagine.
Yeah. They look at us and say, 200 days of no rain?
Talking about that. Isn't it supposed to rain this week?
They said might happen on Saturday.
Yeah.
More likely the odds will be here Sunday. So that would be...
Well, it's like a 20 or 30% chance, which in Vegas is like a
no, it's going to happen.
1% chance.
It's gonna dirty your car.
I was just gonna say that it's a 30% chance of it sprinkling and just
dirtying
dirtying
your
my car. Which, by the way, you got your detail yesterday.
Dude, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
I was like shocked, man. That his car was like his truck
It
was
looked really
like
nice, yeah.
a faded orange is what it came in as.
Well, I was like, so 2 weeks ago I had it cleaned and detailed, and it was great because I enjoyed it for a week, but then we went up to the snow, and a week up in the snow, that'll do it to you.
Yeah.
All the salt on the road and all that. I tried hosing it down. It doesn't work.
No.
So thank you again.
No, I don't know, man. Manny at Affirmative Detailing, he does.
He's not a sponsor, but
Yeah.
shout out to Manny again, man. That was awesome. Like I haven't even seen the truck that beautiful. even when I bought it, I drove it off the lot. It didn't even look that good. Like it was. I'm not joking. I'm not trying to hype it up. He got everything in the inside and out. It was just like, oh, this is the way I wish it happens every time you get out of the car wash.
See, I'm so picky about because I know how to clean a car. It just takes so long.
Yeah.
And so when I hired him for the first time and he did his thing, it looked good. But the typical thing that happens at car washes is you drive into the car wash, 3 days later it's dusty, it's got water spots or whatever. I don't know what he sprays on it or what he does, but this thing just like repels water, repels dust. Like my only thing right now with the sprinkle when you texted me the other day is my windshield that had a little bit of dust so you could see the drops. But other than that, like you can't even tell.
Dust on
Yeah,
the
like you
windshield.
can't even tell that it got sprinkled on. So it's worth paying that money for.
Again, he's not a sponsor, but
No,
I mean,
no.
we got to chat a little bit, and he did talk about how he was he had started working at a car dealership, and so he understands the standards that the car dealers need, in order to present it that way. And he ended up just, moving into this. So for someone like that, that's a natural fit, and that's a fantastic business idea.
Well, when I bought my Chrysler 300, I remember we waited on it for like 3 hours because they were detailing it. And when I got it back, it was just like, did you even wash it?
Oh, yeah.
And so there's standards, and definitely Manny's
standards.
like, at the top of that standard. So yeah.
Cool, man.
Go back.
Again, thank you. That was much needed. I was trying to do that for 2 days, and I'm glad it didn't because he took a good hit. So back to the weather. I know we don't usually include it in our segments, but we are finally. It's now November, the first week of November, and we're still in the 80s here in Vegas. And the expectation is winds will come in and cool things down by 20 degrees next week. So we should actually be in normal fall weather here in Vegas.
But that also elevates the risk of getting the cold.
Yes. And we're seeing COVID cases spike. And so be extra cautious. Maintain your 6 feet. Hey, 6 feet, does that work? My extended arms work?
He's far away.
Yeah, definitely show extra precaution as the season goes through, because we know that the symptoms are very similar from the friends that we've seen that have had the virus. You in particular.
Yep.
Did you ever get your taste back?
It's slowly coming back. I can get some hints and stuff. Yeah, smells coming back a lot more though. I can smell things a lot better now.
It's 2 months now.
Give or take.
Yeah. All right. So living evidence, folks. If you're a denier, it's true.
So if you don't have taste yet back, then why'd you ask for an extra sweet coffee?
Because he's testing it out.
My body's so crazy.
He knows the experience.
This is the time when you could have cleansed your body from all your sugars.
Detox, all that good stuff. Because then you can eat the healthy stuff, and it doesn't matter.
It tastes the same.
All right. So with that, this week's episode, as you can see, we've got our new partner, I guess, in the business, you can say, Brandon Barrios, joining us. He is a new agent on our team, and B, a new agent, period. This week's episode is going to be about the new agent experience. You've been thinking about wanting to become a realtor, as many do. What was that experience like from the moment you decided to pull the trigger and commit to making it here? Because you are now officially a realtor.
Yes.
So welcome.
Fully inducted.
And you are fresh out of the class and your commitment. So
out of the academy.
And in fact, you just opened escrow a few days ago on one of the first transactions here. So it's pretty amazing when you pull the trigger and you commit to something and you make it happen.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive a little deeper as to your experience so that we can share what that was like, because a lot of folks have that idea. And in my experience, we have seen as markets shift, agents come into the business and then agents leave. Mm-hmm. And I understand why agents leave, because we've both, quit often. But we've stuck it out, and now we want to help you get past those hurdles and what it takes. So let's dive in, man. And let's start with the first question. What is it about real estate that you wanted to actually stick to it and commit to this?
So I think mostly being able to help people, coming from a wedding background, seeing people be so happy all the time is really like a good motivator. Makes you feel good about what you're doing at the end of the day. I think when it comes to housing, it's a lot easier too, because it's more personal. It's more, you get more involved with your client, and really they become, you become friends with them, and that's how they refer business back to you. But not even from a business standpoint, you're helping them, and they go to you for information, just for you're their person, and that feels really good to be there for that person, be their fountain of knowledge, just being able to give them all this valuable information, and that's just your job,
So the sense of help, being able to help somebody in that. Let's dive a little deeper into you and your background. You mentioned that you did wedding planning before this. Like, what was that about?
Yeah, so I did, at first I did coordinating. So I just helped the wedding get started. close the wedding chapel doors, let the minister do their thing, and then that's basically about it. From there, I moved on to the sales portion, which was getting people to actually have their wedding with us, give me that $100 deposit, and that's how I got my commission. But yeah, you get some interesting stuff there. You get to deal with a lot of things. There's for sure a lot of issues. A lot of times people will ask you really, weird questions, and you can't judge. I remember one time someone asked us to have, was it like plush teddy bears as all their guests, just fill up all the seats.
They wanted their guests to be plush teddy bears.
Yeah, and just fill up all the seats with plush teddy bears. And it's like,
you got more of these stories? Because this is going to go on for another 20 minutes.
Yeah. We should have a whole another podcast on Las Vegas weddings.
And it was all like polyamorous relationships and all that. So I mean, we can't judge.
Hold on, did you say something foreign? What did you just say?
Polyamorous, I think is what it's called.
What is that?
So it's 3 people, or more than this. It's just not the standard 2 people.
Oh, polygamy.
Polygamy. That's what.
Okay.
I don't know if polyamorous is.
Oh, so they were marrying more than one person.
Polyamory is the practice of or desire for intimate relationship with more than one partner, with the informed consent of all partners involved.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is when.
Thank you for that education.
Yeah. So this is when, like either same sex or different sex. You know, they can.
No, I had someone that a coworker that was, in a relationship like that.
Yeah.
They were sisters or something like that. Not technically sisters, but they called themselves sisters.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
and they weren't sister wives. It was completely different.
That's also happened. Siblings, cousins.
Okay, let's not go there. Next
All of that has happened. It's just questions they ask.
Yeah.
But you have to basically just not judge. Just base it on the situation. Sometimes it feels like they're joking too, but you have to take it seriously and just be like, okay, let me listen to what you need and see if we can offer that to you, see if we can help you out. And that's kind of real estate, same thing,
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go back to that part where you just said you got to listen, right? So tell me about the first time that somebody brought something up that you laughed because you thought it was a joke, because that happens where sometimes, you're genuinely thinking it's not for reals.
Yeah. I think that teddy bear was one of the first ones, actually. And I remember a thing that we did a lot was we had a little mute button on the phone. So every time we'd be talking, and they would say something funny, you mute it, and then you tell everyone else. This guy just told me he wants teddy bears on his wedding. So it was kind of a little bit like that. I heard it, and I was like, can you repeat that real quick? Because did I hear you correctly? And then they're like, yeah, we want teddy bears as our guests. It's just gonna be the 2 of us, but our guests can be teddy bears. And I was like, okay, and I paused and I was like, I asked my manager, I was like, is that fine? He's like, well, yeah. I mean, just teddy bears, as long as they bring them, they set them up, it's fine, So I mean, learning to accommodate is pretty easy. You just mute it, ask if that's fine, and that was about it. But yeah, that was one of the first times where I couldn't tell if they were being serious or if they were like, nah, just kidding, we're gonna have a bunch of guests, but no, they were serious.
Our guests are gonna bring their teddy bears.
Yeah, I mean, I thought a bunch of things, but I was like, okay, well, let me just see if we can do it. Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think our requests can be a little unrealistic sometimes, but
no, at this point, it's normal.
Yeah, but they're normal requests.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is. It really is.
Interesting. Wow, and so that the cool thing about that is. That I think is a unique Vegas thing. Like you can't go to Boise, Idaho, or Kansas City.
There's probably one in the entire state. I'm saying in places like
one
that.
Wedding service?
One wedding service that would accommodate something like that.
Okay, I'll challenge you. Let's put it back. Let's see if we can find it. No, but people already people across the world and the nation, they have this idea of Vegas as being Sin City, so it's just no restrictions.
Yes, yeah.
And then you get to field all those crazy ideas as a part of a milestone achievement in life, which is cool. And that's what that transfer over to this in the real estate side is. This is a milestone moment in life as well, and the whole exercise of listening and taking their key objectives and translating it. That's what I think you will have great success in this business, because you're able to see that, and you've done that multiple times, and you've been really good at it. And now taking that into the business world on the real estate side should be a pretty natural fit for you. Yeah. So that I agree with that on that front. And so that said, when when I look at someone who's starting in the business, and there's been no shortage of people that want to come in, and we've interviewed with them. Those are kind of the key points that we're looking for on this side, because you do need to be able to be patient. You do need to be able to see beyond what other people are talking about, and specifically remove your perspective and allow them that space to grow. So kudos to you, man. I look forward to seeing you grow in that arena. So when you chose, what sparked your interest in real estate? Like, how did you come across the idea of saying, "Oh, real estate would be a good industry to go into"?
So I thought about it first in high school. To be honest, I have no idea what really sparked it, I guess. I just kind of really like the idea of showing houses. I really like cool houses. Architecture is really cool to me. So it was kind of just there. I just hadn't really uncovered it. I remember at that same wedding shop I worked at, they had a little section for you to put a little bio on the website, a little bit about yourself. And I actually wrote in there, I want to go. I said I want to go to CSN to do real estate. I had no idea what I was talking about at that point, but I did say I wanted to do real estate. I thought it was so funny because one day I was looking back at it, and it said that, and that was when I was already getting my license and everything. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I stuck to it from that point. So really, yeah. I mean, for me, it was more at first about it looks really cool, so let me see what it's about, and then that's when I went to go talk to Isaac and figured out what it really takes. So that's when I had a little kind of had to think about it. Had to be like, am I going to be able to? Should I?
So let's share that experience.
Well, I want to ask you before we go into that, your expectations versus reality. How different is that?
So there's a stereotype of realtors that a bunch of classes I took, everyone thinks realtors open the door and get a big check. That's the saying. That's when I took my post-licensing class, Jenny Holder, she was like, everyone thinks that realtors open the door and get a big check, or put a sign in, or put the little for sale sign and get a big check.
That would be nice.
It would be nice, yeah. So that's sort of what I thought. We go show houses, and then they like a house, and then they buy the house, and that's all I had in my mind, And then you get a good amount of money because realtors they look successful. You look at Ryan Searhant. Super successful, but you don't see all that behind the scenes, all that hard work he does. So yeah, that was my expectation. It's easy. You get your own hours. That's what entices a lot of people. You get freedom. But like that Instagram post you had sent, if you have a lot of freedom, it means you're probably not doing a lot of work. And that's what the reality is. Especially starting out, you really have to put in a lot of work, and you don't start seeing the fruits of your labor until a little bit further on. You really have to not think about now, you have to think about the future.
So my conversation with you is very similar to a lot of conversations I have with people who reached out and say, I want to become a realtor, And I tell them, I don't want to discourage you, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be very honest with you. This business is not for everyone. This business is hard work. This business doesn't pay that well. Yes, it pays well, but you also have a lot of expenses, especially if you want to do this prolonged.
As a real business.
And like you said, you think that you're going to have freedom, and to a certain extent you do, but unlike your 9-to-5 job where you clock out and then you can completely forget about work, you cannot do that with real estate. And so there's times where we're working till 9 or 10 at night trying to fix a problem, and there's times that I wake up at 9 or 10 in the morning because it's an easy.
You're working till midnight.
Yeah. So it just it varies, but that was pretty much our conversation, right?
Yeah. You told me. I think the first question you asked me is why I wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that stuck with me the most because before that, no one's really asked me why I wanted to do anything. I applied for the wedding shop, which I was like, they don't ask you why. They know why you need money.
Right.
But real estate, is such a different thing, and it became so clear as to why you ask why. Once I started getting into it, because it's not a 9 to 5 job, and it is literally, you know, you're having your own business, and you know, I learned you really can't be shy about it. You know, you have to put it out there. So it's scary stuff when you're first getting into it.
So going back into your, you decided to move forward, and you know, we went through the process of what you needed to do,
right.
You know, the pre-course and all that stuff. How, what was your expectations, or what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, like when I said I was going to go to CSN college for real estate, I genuinely thought like you have to go to school for it. You have to go to college for it or something. I don't know where I got the idea from, but that's what I thought.
I think education job,
yeah. But then, you know, in actuality, you just have to take the online course at that point, or you can take it in person. Not right now. I don't know. Right now they're open, but at that point it was optional to do in person because it was before COVID. So, but I still chose to do it online, just to give myself a little more time, and I can still do work and everything, and I wouldn't have to, you know, go back and forth. But it was for me, the expectation was it's going to be easy, but just the class themselves, you really have to stick to it and you really have to learn the stuff. So even that itself wasn't like super easy per se, especially for me because I'm terrible at studying. So
yeah. So I mean, I think the courses are like fairly easy and cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that entices a lot of people. Like,
the barrier of entry to get into this business is very low.
Yeah.
Right. So when you look at the spectrum of business opportunities, right, you've got your kind of MLMs on the low end of the spectrum because it's usually a few $100 to get started in your business, out to like buying a McDonald's franchise. If you were to put that on a scale, getting in as a realtor is kind of on this side of the spectrum because it's pretty low barrier of entry, meaning it's only a few $1,000s to really get your license and to get started. You pass that process. But it does have the potential to make a whole lot of money when you apply it. So back to the classes, you know, like when I took the test, I'm not a good example because I literally decided to get it and took the test in 17 days. But I've been in the industry for a long time, and I understood like what was behind those questions. For someone who did not have any real estate experience, what was the test and that whole like learning process like for you?
So I think the actual contents of the exam and of the class, not at all what I was like thinking about. You know, learning about what appraisals, about all the legalities of it. I was like, what's all this? You know, because you know, like why do I have to know it? All this stuff. And that's one big thing that you'll learn. It's like everyone tells you, well, you don't like need it. You know, you're not going to need any of this. But that's actually not a good mentality to have because you're not going to apply yourself as much. And that's why at the beginning, I didn't like fully focus on the course. So it was getting a little bit harder for me to like really catch on to things, learn the vocabulary and stuff like that. And then I ended up taking this like little prep thing that would help me study to kind of, you know, guide me through it, make it easier. And the guy that taught it, he was like, don't think of it as you're not going to need this. Think of this as like the most valuable information ever so that you'll learn it. You know, like you'll apply yourself, learn it, study it every day. And that's what I did. I was like, you know, I'm going to focus on, I learned all the vocabulary and everything. And that's what really, you know, pushed me forward and helped me end up passing the test.
Awesome. How many times?
6 or 7.
6 or 7?
It became a blur after 5. And that's the other part of the equation is, you know, if in the state of Nevada you need 90 hours of this education. In a classroom setting, you might be able to absorb a little more and, you know, take the test with less attempts. But at the end of the day, those classes and that education is basically the state requirements of what it takes for you to understand the business. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff you're learning nationwide. Like there's a whole national test, and we don't use some of that stuff here. And I mean, it's, you know, we could debate whether or not it's useless or not, but it helps you understand kind of the different ways things are done across the country because you can get your license in multiple states, which is kind of cool. Okay, cool. So you know, getting through that, it's very common for folks to miss it the first round, and you know, everybody that I've known that's taken the test Never hasn't done it except for you. You did it the first time, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting. Once you passed it, how did that feel?
Oh, it felt so good. It felt like a weight off my shoulders, especially because every single time you take it, it is $100. Whether you pass one portion because you have to state national, every single time is $100. That really starts to weigh on you after like 2 or 3 times. And so you can imagine 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like a big weight off my shoulders. I remember I texted you guys like right after. I was like, oh, I feel so good. I feel relieved.
So I want to talk about that because I just couldn't just shut up.
Pause.
So I want to talk about that particularly because, when you came down and we sat down and you were like, okay, I'm going to go for it. We went over the costs. And I always say, about $3,000. That's kind of the number, right? That's what it's going to cost to enter. And a lot of people, when I tell them that number, they're like, but the course is only $140.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the rest of it come, right? And I'm like, maybe you don't need all $3,000, but budget for that because the retakes of the tests. So
starts adding up.
if you're fortunate enough to pass it on the first try, then yeah, it's $100. But like you just said, if you fail one or the other, it's another $100 every single time until you pass it.
Yeah.
So
how many times did you quit up to that point?
Like fully quit, none, because I'm still here.
But in your head, you were ready to quit.
Yes.
Did you question yourself?
Yes, many times. Yeah. And even when I passed the test, because you still have to also take a school test. You have to, the actual course you take. You have to take a little test. That one's free, not as much pressure. So you can take that over and over. That one I didn't even count how many times I failed because I was like, I'm just gonna come back the next day anyway. That one didn't take me too long, but after all of that, once I was finally ready to pay my dues for becoming a realtor, I was literally like shaking. I was nervous because I was like second guessing myself. I was like, this is a big investment. I wasn't even paying for it, but that was part of the anxiety for me because my dad was paying for it. I was like, man, this is a really big, step, a really big investment. And it has to, I needed to pay off because, this is what I want to do for my career. So even then I was having, second thoughts about, whether or not this is right for me. But I was like, that's all part of the process. You're going to have second thoughts. The difference between the 88% of people that quit in their first year and the people that don't is being able to see past those second thoughts and just push on through,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shift in mindset.
Yes.
And that's one of the biggest challenges that many new agents need to adapt to and really kind of dismiss are those questions, that monkey chatter, as they say in your head, because that's all it is your personal fear. It doesn't mean that you will or will not fail. It's all about how you commit and execute it, man.
And the thing about this business is we've talked about this. It's rejection is
no, it's every day.
It's every day for us. And so if you can't even reject your own negative thoughts, then how are you going to cope with rejection from outside of your mind? So I think it's very important for you to really think about it. It's not just something that you want to go in and say, well, I'm going to give it a shot for a year, because it's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It is so. You talked with your friend Leslie, and she's had her hurdles, even though she's doing really, really well. And so even though you might do really well right off the bat, you're still gonna go through an emotional process. You're still gonna go through challenges.
Well, the key thing that bounces off of is if you can't control your own thoughts or even can't manage your own personal issues with a client, how are you going to navigate the business? Because the business is cyclical, it's cycles. Like this is the slow time of the year. If you're not pumping out work, to generate some business, then you're going to start endorsing those thoughts of, oh, I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
And see that in my experience of seeing 1,500 transactions in a few years, and watching agents come and go. They talk about the ratios of 88%. You kind of fail in the first year. I watched it firsthand. Watch agents come in and just dismiss. there is a certain period of time that you've got to push before you start seeing the returns.
Exactly.
And it just requires a different approach to things. So, having those that confidence, being able to navigate the personal kind of fears, and at the end of the day, any business has risk. Specifically, we manage risk, and in a way, that's kind of what we have to master is, how much of a risk is it going to take? Do I spend time with this client, or do I actually need to go and do a consultation, or does what they're saying make sense with what their objectives are? Are they going to be real serious, or are they going to be real I can't afford this kind of thing? And there's all kinds of ways we can split that hair. Yeah. When it comes to your future, why did you choose to join us?
No, you guys specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, the first person I came to was Isaac to figure out what I even needed to do to become a real estate agent.
Oh, he locked you into a contract.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're
straight
committed.
off the bat. Yeah.
20 years.
But yeah, he's the first person I came to. I just found out he was a realtor. Like I said, I had no idea what it even meant to be a realtor. I thought real estate agent and realtor were interchangeable. They're not, especially the cost. It's very much not. But yeah, I mean, that's what I first started off with, and just I think the value he provided, which is I think kind of like a staple of the Five Diamond Group, is providing that value. Isaac provided the value without any contingency, without anything behind it. He was like straight up, this is what you need, everything. And then on top of that, he was like, hey, we're making a team. Do you want to join once you get licensed? And I was like, well, yeah, So I think that was, for me, it was like a golden opportunity. There was no reason for me to be like, I'm not going to join your team after you just told me what to do and everything. And he seemed super knowledgeable. He seemed, he knew exactly what he was talking about. So I was like, why would I go somewhere else if I have very good value here, and someone who's opened the doors to their team? Why would I say no? So that was about it.
And did you have other opportunities to interview with other brokerages?
Yeah, one other. It was Wardley, I think. They called me over. I went over to their office. This agent came out with a big binder, slammed down table. It's like, all right, let's start going through this. Opened it page by page. All right, this is what we work on. Like, this is what we use to our CRM, flip pages. And I was like, so, not to be rude, but I was bored a little bit. And I was like, man, like this, there's like a lot to take in. And I'm just like, okay. I never went back there because, they called me back. It's like, you may be interested. And I was like, no, I'm good.
Wow. I've interviewed with a few other brokers, and I love having those conversations, but I've yet to find one like that.
It was interesting, yeah. It was an interesting experience. But yeah, it just wasn't, I don't know, you could tell that really what they wanted was, like Isaac had mentioned to me before, these big brokerages that have the large numbers, or, the teams that have very large numbers, it's easy to pump out. If you have 100 agents, they each do one transaction, that's 100 transactions. So if that's what it felt like, it was more for like, oh, we need agents, you want
bodies to fill.
Exactly. So I was like, I don't think that's for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll be for me in the future either, because that's just kind of not the kind of person I am to just be like a body in a desk. For me, that's like, I might as well go back to my 9 to 5 if that's going to be the case, So
you've hung out with us for about a year now. You've had the opportunity to see that same interest from other people. Yes. Come and go, just in our little small group that we have. And any idea what that number is, just off the top of your head?
Or any feedback on that?
Yeah. Like, you've seen folks that have had an interest similar to yours, have wanted to pursue joining our group, and then have not. Like, what would be, like, your experience? Like, what would be your feedback on maybe why they did not make it happen?
I think it's the same thing with those second thoughts. Everyone is going to feel like quitting, like everyone. I don't think that's an exception to the rule. Everyone will think about quitting at some point, and there's just simply people that do and people that don't. So, putting it simply, that's what for me it is, as simple as that. I also think I don't know. It is very hard because you don't generate anything until a little bit later on. You have your sphere of influence. You might catch a really good timing where all of a sudden your sphere of influence, all your family, your friends are looking to buy or sell. So that's good for you. You start off strong, but from there, what happens then? That's when you have to be like, oh, well, now I have to start cold calling. Now I have to, and you get all these strangers telling you no, or even well, let's hope not, but they just start being rude to you. It just happens. It's part of it, and that's really hard for some people. And for me, it was very hard to even visualize that in the future, or cold calling and all these things. It was like super hard for me to be like, oh, I'm so excited for that, because no one is, but no one's excited.
You got to
about
psych
cold
yourself up
calling.
for that. Yeah.
But you have to put yourself in a position of power. You have to be like confident in yourself. And you really have to, try to learn and know what you're talking about. And that it can be very hard because it's, it's just this like constant, the market's always changing. You have to keep up with it. So it's not easy. So I think it's very easy to make excuses. And then from there, you're like, this is not for me, just quit. So I think, just some people do quit, others don't. Just the 88%, like I said. So yeah, for me, the biggest part, I don't want to be part of the 88%. I don't want to be a statistic sort of thing now. So.
Mm-hmm. And so you highlight an important factor is that the commitment to being able to get past even your own perspective and your own issues, to be able to reach your ideal vision of what that looks like. So yeah, that's nothing against anybody. That's just human nature, and so. That's why Isaac made it very clear from the beginning, and as well as like we try and just help people understand that reality is that this may not be the cup of tea for everybody. You have to have that self-analysis. You have to be able to answer those questions for yourself. Basically, you've got to be honest with yourself, and you got to have the ability to be able to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses, and whether or not you can make it happen. And I think that's what we saw in you, is being able to make that happen. And others that are joining our team, we're trying to help them get to that point. And I think that's one of the things that we, as team leaders, we are. It's important for us to make sure that you get that kind of support. You're not going to get at what do they call those? Cattle calls. Another office where you have just a bunch of bodies laying around. You're not going to get that kind of
the bullpens.
Support. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
And I think that's a good point too. That not only is it commitment, but also you have to kind of have that conversation with yourself and be like, is this right for me? And I don't think it's a bad thing that some people quit. It just simply is not for them, and that's really good to have that self-awareness to be like, well, this is not for me. Let me go find something else. And that's great, because not a lot of people can. A lot of people quit, and they'll just be like, oh, I'm just going to go back to 9 to 5. I admire people that go out of their way to do something different, to set themselves up to be successful, and whatever it is. And I'm a big fan of trying different things out, especially when you're young, because most of the people that try to join you're young. So okay, you tried real estate, just wasn't for you, and that's perfectly fine. But I think you have to go into it with that mindset.
I'm an optimist. My theory is I think anybody can do anything they want to, if they put their mind to it, and that's the key factor. Is just being that as far as I see it, doesn't mean that I'm right. I'm just saying, like, I would love to have that ideal world of where everybody can make those adjustments. But at the end of the day, we all have our things to manage.
So here's the difference: I agree 100%. Anybody can do anything they want, and they set their mind to. But it doesn't mean that they'll enjoy it. And that is where the difference is, and that's the key. Because when you enjoy doing something, like yes, there's days that we work very hard, but I enjoy what I do, and so it makes it.
I don't like paperwork. I did it too long.
Yeah. But for the most part, like 90% of what we do is enjoyable. So it doesn't bother me to wake up at 5 a.m. and go and do this. Where working somewhere where you don't like, you even if you had the perfect schedule and you made $1 million a year, you probably wouldn't be that happy because you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah, you nailed on a key point right there. At the end of the day, the reason why a lot of people get into this because they think it'll make them happier. They have the freedom.
and money. They think that
It makes a lot
it's
of
easy money,
Right.
and I think that that's the difference between setting the expectations in as a reality is yes, can you make a lot of money? This is a business of the harder you work, the more money you're going to make. Scratch off freedom because you're not going to have any freedom if you want to have make six figures a year and you want to be a top producing agent, and that's totally possible, but you're not going to have a life. And for me personally speaking, is I'm more interested in having a good balance of both, where I'm comfortable. I don't need to be a millionaire, but I also want to have that freedom of being able to travel, being able to enjoy family and friends.
And that's one of the key points. One of the key factors for us is it's not technically about the numbers. It's about the balance. And balance in our own personal psychology, but also specifically in our life. And everything that we do, whatever we choose to do with our life, this is just one part of it. And if you're going to pursue this path, you got to be honest about it because it's going to impact everything else in your life. And that happiness is the most important thing. It's our psychosis, right? So when you surround yourself with people who have that same kind of ideology, instead of just focusing on numbers and powering through calls and you got to deliver these things, that has a place for it, but it doesn't have a healthy balance to the counter in the life. So,
and that's my advice to whoever's wants to become a realtor is really find out what your motives are. If your motive is money, then go find yourself a brokerage that's going to push you to your limit every single day, and that's going to make you do 100 phone calls a day. That's going to make you go meet 100 people a week, and put 5, 6, 8 escrows in or transactions in escrow a week, because that's what's going to get you there. But trust me, you're going to be slammed. Or if you're looking for in our case is what does the particular individual agent want? And that's what we're going to focus on. If they want to make that 6 figures, we're going to push them to their limits as well. But if we have a mom on our team, so if she wants more time with her kids, then we're going to make that happen. We have a part-time
what's wrong with
agent.
Dad?
You're the team leader. But we have a part-time agent, and she was very clear about what she wanted to do, and she's almost there, and once we get there, it's up to her if she wants to
what path she wants to take.
Continue or
so at the end of the day, part of getting into the business is it looks kind of cool, but the question that we want to dive into and really understand, and really any agent that wants to get into this business is, what does your full life look like? Visualize that, and that means everything: your vacation time, your off time, your family time, your personal growth, your spiritual growth, whatever that is. Visualize that, and how can this help you? And then those will also help bring that happiness, because then now you've got motivation to work from stuff from there. And so that's where everybody that's on our team, we have that discussion with, and our goal is to help them reach those goals, not just the business goals, but those things in life, because that's super important. Awesome. So now that you are here, now that you are a realtor, what fears do you have looking forward?
It's a good question. I'm no longer afraid of the no's as much. I figured out early on I was terrified of it. It took me a while, but I was like, no, I'm going to look past it. So I'm no longer terrified of the no's. For me, for the most part, it is really just solidifying my relationships with people. I noticed that when I was starting out to be a realtor and I was like reaching out to people, it felt really weird and awkward, because I noticed that my relationships really weren't as solid as they should be, in my opinion. You reach out to people with the intent only of letting them know you're a realtor. In my opinion, it won't work out as well as you think it will. I think if you reach out to someone organically, really, really care about actually other people, what's going on in their life and stuff like that, and asking a lot of questions, I think that helps a lot more. So for me, my biggest fear is not being able to solidify those relationships. I try recently I've been trying very, very hard to reach out to as many people as I can, just literally asking them, how's it going? If I see someone that I haven't seen in a while, just really get into a conversation with them. I remember I went to his little get together, was like 10 or less people, by the way.
You could have said pre-COVID.
Yeah, you could have said not.
But yeah, I saw someone from my old orchestra group. I was in orchestra, by the way, and I hadn't talked to him in forever, and we just had this like 30-minute conversation. Everyone else was like, talking amongst themselves. It was just me and this one guy just talking. And at the end of it, we're all like, man, we need to hang out more, because we just hadn't talked that much. And I was like, I really need to just sit down and have that conversation with people and, build that connection, not just with the idea of let me make money off of them in the back of your mind, but with the idea of, this is a person, let me make a connection with them, because that's really all that matters.
Mm-hmm. In fact, you highlight a key point, bringing value to someone else's life, connecting with them and helping them. A lot of people just enjoy having that dialogue and conversation. You're doing that genuinely, and that will pay off in dividends later.
Yeah.
And your point, and the point is correct, that you don't want to do that with the intent of like, how much money can I get out of them? Yeah, there's a monetary value tied to it, maybe down the road. But at the end of the day, it's about that connection, because this business is about trust and value. And if they can't appreciate what you bring to the table, then...
And if you do it solely for the money, when that person goes with somebody else, it's even more discouraging.
It hurts more.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so if you do it with genuine intent, you know that it could have gone your way, it could have gone somebody else's way. At the end of the day, you know that you helped them, and that itself is rewarding and a satisfaction.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest parts, as far as like having your own why. Really not having it be about money is like such a big advantage, because if it is about money, let's say you want to have a certain amount of money, you get there, and then what, what are you going to do after that? You just keep working, but it's like, it's going to tire you out after a while. And then it's not really any different than a 9-to-5, because 9-to-5 you're working for that money,
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what you're doing. But if you have something else really pushing you, then it's so much easier to just keep going, because, you have something that's not money. You get to a certain goal, you can set up your goals of, I want to have this much money. You get there, but you still have something pushing you, It's not just, financial. It's not just, for that sort of gain. It makes it so much easier to talk to people, really care about them, and provide value to them, because it's not about money.
Yeah.
So to summarize, we end with what we start with. And the first question I always ask in the interview is, why are you getting into the business? What is your why? And in fact, even when you went through your whole process, coming in, one of the steps is articulate your why. Look up Simon Sinek, Google him on the TED Talk, read his books. Take that whole conversation as to why you do what you do and why you're getting into this business. Because, yeah, you can make the money. Yeah, it gives freedom. But if you're not doing it for value, especially in this industry that's changing, the realtors that I knew 20 years ago have either retired or switched out, because in the last 5 and 7 years, the industry is changing at a rapid pace. And while there has been a lot of adaptation, the role of the agent is becoming more about value, about delivering the experience that's better for the client, because that, at the end of the day, is what it's all about. And so, why are you getting into this business? What are your motivating factors? Ask those questions, you'll have your answer. And if this is where it's at,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be here. So, thanks, man.
Of course.
Welcome.
So Brandon's our new agent. If anybody's looking to buy or sell, please DM us. We'll put you guys in touch.
Don't go to them, go to me.
And that
He just got fired?
Back to 2. Well, that does it for this week's episode of the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you having you join us with this journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to click the subscribe button down below, as well as liking this particular video. You can catch us on all of the social outlets. And if you have any specific questions or ideas for the podcast, feel free to drop them in the comments below, because we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys have a fabulous week.